Well, first off, happy 3 months plus. Are you satisfied with how things have gone in this, kind of arbitrary but nevertheless substantial amount of time?
Well, what I am, excited about is the energy that I'm experiencing all over the city of Chicago. I mean, we're bringing people together as I promised I would. Over the course of these first 3 months, I've been to multiple neighborhoods, had so many different meetings with a lot of different folks that are committed to helping us build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. And what I'm most encouraged by is the foundation that we've laid within the first 100 days. You've seen, us do something that we have not ever experienced in the city of Chicago. For the first time in the history of Chicago, we have a deputy mayor dedicated to community safety. And as a result of that work, 24,000 young people experienced employment throughout the summer, of which our philanthropic community as well as our business leaders chipped in to help provide that support. We brought the Chicago Public Schools and the Chicago Teachers Union together. As a result of that formation of a relationship, we now have an entire committee dedicated to special education, as well as a whole host of other dynamics that can help us build a school district that all of our families can be proud of. And then you saw the full force of government on display when we experienced the unprecedented level of downfall of rain, where so many of our neighbors, particularly on the west side of Chicago, where my wife and I are raising our children, experienced flooding. Streets and Sanitation, Department of Transportation, OEMC, the fire department, the police department, city workers going into basements to help families clear out from the damage. And then as a result of our concerted effort, we now have a declaration where President Biden has released funding to help families repair. And so this better, stronger, safer Chicago that I'm committed to building, we have a foundation that allows us to continue to strengthen the city of Chicago to provide a government that the people of Chicago can be proud of.
Now, natural disasters aside, what's been the most maddening man-made crisis that you've had to deal with? Has it been crime? Is it migrants? Something else?
Well, look, as I said repeatedly, coming into this role and position as mayor, I was, I'm fully aware of what I inherited. And, the historic disinvestment that has taken place over the course of generations now have certainly left the city of Chicago vulnerable, and it has placed a great deal of neighborhoods in isolation. And what I've been working on is ultimately bringing all levels of government together, the city, the county, state government, working with our congressional delegation as well, to provide the type of support and resources that families that have been ignored for too long, that the ones that they desperately need, that we can begin to deliver those services. Look, the impact of school closings, shutting down mental health clinics, the austere budgets that have plagued our communities, particularly on the west and south sides for a very long time. There are some levels of frustration I have to be very honest about, that quite frankly propelled me into this position, right? Coming from the position of an organizer, a teacher, seeing firsthand what that type of disinvestment does to a community. All that is done for me, though, over the last 3 months, it has given me that much more motivation and strength to address these critical issues so that we can build this better, stronger, and safer Chicago.
What, if anything, has surprised you, if anything, about your dealings with the city council members?
Look, what I've, experienced over these first, 3 months is that there are some people who have become accustomed, to, more of a combative style and, combative relationships that quite frankly don't lead towards building a better, stronger, safer Chicago. And what I've been encouraged by is that the number of people who have come up to me within city council to just simply say, thank you. Thank you for running, city council meetings with civility. Thank you for listening. No one is surprised by my value system. I mean, the people of Chicago, elected me because they recognize if we're going to bring people together, we have to center our values for people and working people at the heart of the work that we do. It doesn't mean that everyone agrees with all of the proposals or ideas that I put forth. What we have been able to effectively do in a very short period of time is restore some structure, provide some calm and some decorum to our political debates. But has ultimately led to us, moving on an agenda that I promised to deliver on, right? So now we are a little bit closer to bringing Chicago home, a dedicated revenue stream to deal with the homeless crisis. We are a little bit closer to enacting treatment, not trauma, so that we relieve the pressure off of police officers and we can actually have mental health providers show up to 911 calls. Where those calls are those services are necessary. We also are in a position to finally have a police superintendent that understands the value of working with the faith community and community-based organizations and violence interrupters, while also building confidence within our rank and file workforce, our police department. So I know that's a long response to your question, but the surprise has been more from other people who have wanted this type of relationship between city council and the fifth floor.
Well, and let's talk. I want to touch on a couple of topics with the time we have. One of them is, of course, health. With the COVID rates inching up, I suspect people are going to wonder when the next person will be named to replace Dr. Allison Arwady.
Yeah, so what you have seen from me and what the people of Chicago are, what people of Chicago have expressed to me, and I've been all over the city. What I hear repeatedly is they want leadership that recognizes the real inequities that exist within all of our systems. And we have a transition, team and report that is still working closely with the community to help us identify persons who reflect those values. And I'm moving with expediency, despite the critique that people may have of me, being deliberative and intentional and thoughtful, and how we actually put forth individuals that can actually help lead our departments is something that the people of Chicago appreciate. And quite frankly, people have said it's been refreshing to know that the type of thoughtfulness and care that we put into our hires really reflects the desire for us to get it right. And do I see a timeline? Do I see a timeline that allows us to do that in an expedited way? Absolutely. The number of people who want to work for the city of Chicago and this administration, then we certainly are not short on applicants.
Mm-hmm. Were you at all surprised by, at least from some circles, the outcry when Arwady, to some, was unceremoniously fired? I don't know that that's what really happened, but that's how the reports came out.
Well, as I've said before, there are some people who are accustomed to a public display of dissent and division. That is not my style. And what I've said and repeatedly, and why I've been reluctant to speak on this particular dynamic, is because it is against my value system to discuss personnel, particularly the termination of someone publicly. And though there are some people who want to see combative dynamics play out publicly, that is not what the people of Chicago did. Not elect me to continue the same tradition of politics that have left too many of our communities behind. So I didn't do it, and I'm not going to do it.
Understood. One other topic before I completely run out of time, and that's a newer one, the White Sox. Now they are talking about wanting someplace new to play. What's your view of that statement from the team, and how you might work to keep them in Chicago if you are ready to do that.
Well, as the people of Chicago continue to get used to my style of listening to people and collaborating with all of our stakeholders, here's another example that I will be able to be on display to demonstrate my commitment to listening to people and having a collaborative approach of how we address all of the dynamics that exist in the city of Chicago. Look, despite the fact that, I grew up watching WGN, we it's still important though that the history and the traditions that exist in the city of Chicago, that we grow that history and we extend it beyond our time period on the earth. And having an organization like the White Sox in the city of Chicago, in particular on the South Side, there's a great deal of history there that I know the people of Chicago do not want that lost. So, I'm going to continue to listen and work with the ownership to make sure that that history doesn't get lost.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for talking with me.